We'll go ahead and stand up, face the room, and open it up. Making sure we got our first go. You don't open this up.
For all our days are passed away in thy wrath.
For all our days are passed away in thy wrath.
We spend our years as a tale that is told.
We spend our years as a tale that is told.
The days of our years are 80 years and 10.
The days of our years are 80 years and 10.
And if by reason of strength
If by reason of strength,
they be 80 years,
they be 80 years.
yet is their strength labor and sorrow,
Yet is their strength labor and sorrow,
for it is soon cut off,
for it is soon cut off,
and we fly away.
and we fly away.
Who knoweth the power of thine anger,
Who knows the power of thine anger?
even according to thy fear?
According to thy fear.
So is thy wrath.
So is thy wrath.
So teach us to number our days,
So teach us to number our days,
that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom.
that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom.
Today's opening scripture comes from Psalms 90, verses 9 through 12. May the Lord add a blessing upon the hearing, reading, and doing of his word. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. This Psalms. Yep, so. Yes, I want to welcome everybody to the Remnant Judah Bible study class. I'll be the teacher, Brother Reggie, and reading for me will be Brother Caitlin. And the title of today's lesson is The Israelites, known as a byword and a proverb among the nations. The Israelites, known as a byword and a proverb among the nations. And we put this lesson here, this country and a lot of other countries or whatnot, what they do is the shortest month of the year, they designate it as Black History Month. And just that name in and of itself, Black, what we're gonna do, we got some PowerPoint slides that we're gonna look at and see where all these bywords and what these proverbs, where this stuff came from, as well as look and see what the Bible defines as such. But this is, one of those months, which pretty much the Bible in and of itself, this whole Bible is Israelite, or what they would call, quote unquote, Black history, the whole entire Bible. So we sometimes, like we did it last year, we kind of dealt with it during that time. Last year, we kind of went and kind of showed some things to show the color of Israel, who we are, the chosen priests. And so we might not go a full month. We'll see whether we do or not, but at least what we want to do is touch on some things and kind of switch it up. And like I say, this whole Bible is Black history, and it's telling the story of. Oftentimes you'll run across some people and they'll say, like when we doing some outreach or just passing by or talking to people, they'll be like, look, I know the Bible talking about us, but they won't go as far to say that, look, we are Israelites. They know and identify that the Bible is talking about us, and sometimes it's because of, oftentimes it's because of, we got some other brothers out here that is Israel that's a little bit more aggressive, way more aggressive. And sometimes, it rubs those guys or some of the people who not really privy to this word of God the wrong way. And people be asking like, hold up, y'all Israelites? They ask, look, y'all Israelites? Like, I heard, like, and see, that's a bad thing that's going on. And see, they got a scripture in the Bible in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, I believe it is, that how those brothers, those super Hebrews, they please not God. And so we run into these things sometime, and people are kind of scared to say that they Israel, or coming to it and see what we're saying because of that energy that those brothers are giving off. And so we gonna look at it and show this thing, this condition, this curse, one of the many curses that is on us as a people, as Israel. So we identified, we say we African Americans, we say we Black, we call ourselves the N-word and all these things. Look, we identify with that, we cool with that. We cool with that. But you call them an Israelite, they have a problem with it. And this is a name that comes from the Lord Jesus. This is one of his names. And what did the Bible say? That he was going to be despised and rejected by many. It ain't something that we come to be a people, a group of people, his chosen people, that are the Israelites, and we despise and reject it too, just by wearing that name. That is something else. So we're gonna start first in the PowerPoint slide. We're gonna bring something else. We're gonna bring something up here and take a look at it on what an Israelite is itself. And then we're gonna get into the scripture. We're gonna kind of be back and forth because we got several slides, and it's gonna be some pretty good history that we got of common people and groups of people that sometimes were, today are known as Native Indians or Native Americans and all this stuff. But we're gonna show where these people came from. We won't touch on all, but we will touch on some that are, we know for a fact, Israel. And maybe the world doesn't know. But we're going to bring up this PowerPoint, this first one here, and this is the definition of an Israelite. This is from the Zondervan's Compact Dictionary, and it says, Hebrew descendants, it came up. Hebrew descendants of Jacob's 12 sons, which are biblically known as the 12 tribes of Israel. And we listed those 12 sons. We had Reuben, which was the firstborn, would be the Reubenites. That was one of the first tribes. Then you had Simeon, you had Levi, which would be the Levites. These were the chosen priests of the Lord during the Levitical priesthood. During the first 5 books of the Bible, with Esau, who called themselves Jews, say that, that's, with David or whatnot, that's the commentary of David, that's what they say. But Judah, the tribe of Judah, these are the real Jews, not Esau, the people over there in the Middle East in Israel calling themselves Jews. Judah would be the tribe of Judah. You had Issachar, you had Zebulun, you had Dan, known as the Danites, you had Naphtali, you had Gad, known as the Gadites, Asher, Benjamin, known as the Benjamites, and Joseph, who had his 2 sons when Joseph died. This was the same Joseph that these first 11 brothers sold him into slavery during the famine, and he had to be the one to get them out of a jail, provide food and everything for them. Years later, they didn't even recognize him. He later had 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh. So those are the 12 tribes of Israel that came from a combination of 4 different women, Leah, Rachel, and they 2 handmaids or whatnot. That's where all the 12 tribes come from. So an Israelite is somebody who was a descendant from one of these 12 tribes. One of these 12 tribes is the Israelites. That's what defines what an Israelite is. So let's go back now to the scriptures here. We're going to open this up. We're going to come back to the PowerPoint here in a second, but let's open this up in Genesis chapter 9. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. We're going to do it, let's skip Genesis 9. We're going to pick it up at verse 1. And we're going to do it, let's skip Genesis 9 and verse 1. And when you get there, read.
And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth.
He's like, God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth. Now, the reason why they had to replenish the earth, we didn't read it for time's sake, but if you read Genesis chapter 6, we'll understand that, look, the world was wicked. It was upside down, kind of like what it is right now today. Because oftentimes what we say is, look, we basically like right back where we were in Genesis, where our forefathers were in Genesis chapter 6. The thoughts of man was evil continually. And we seen that, and this raised up to the Lord. The Lord had a problem with it. So he said he was going to end and kill everybody in the world. Everything, beast, man, you name it. And the ones that he spared was Noah and his sons. So this here, when he's saying be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, this is after the flood, after Noah's Ark and everything. This is after that what we coming in on here today. That was verse 1. Skip down to verse 8 and continue.
And God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you.
He's like, look, behold, I establish my covenant with you and your seed after you. That would be us. The seed after them, that would be us. This is so he established in his word, his spiritual contractual agreement with them, with his sons and the seed after them. That would apply to us right there. That was verse 9. Let's go to Genesis chapter 10, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Because we got several slides. We're going to kind of dig into some history today. Genesis chapter 10, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Genesis 10, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. We just going to read that one verse for right now. But I want you to put a marker there because we're going to come right back. We're going to look at something else that we're going to kind of go through and break down some of Noah's sons. Genesis 10 and verse 1. And when you get there, read.
Now these are the generation of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood.
After the flood. What flood? This was the flood with Noah's ark. He's like, now these are the generation of the sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. Everybody on this earth today, I don't care where they are, if it's a remote tribe somewhere in the Amazon forest, they from one of these tribes, one of these sons. Everybody on the face of this earth is from one of these 3 sons today. And this is what we're going to point out. Let's bring back up that PowerPoint. We're going to go to the map here first. And for some reason, when I say that, the slides kind of save out of order. So we're going to go to slide number 2. And this is the map here. And we're going to kind of look at the first son, which was Japheth. Because Japheth was actually the oldest son. Japheth was actually the oldest son. For years, I used to think that he was the younger, but Japheth was actually the oldest son. But with the map here, what we're showing on this map, this is for Japheth, and it says, look, the oldest son of Noah. Japheth means God will enlarge. They are the descendants, the descendants of Japheth occupied the isles of the Gentiles. So if you look at the map to the right, everything that's in the red, that is considered, and some of it is cut off, but everything that's in the red, that is considered the isles of the Gentiles. That's where Japheth and where he dwelled at. So this would be basically all of Europe, Asia, all these things that's a part of Europe. So all of this is the isle of the Gentiles. Now we got the common Gentile that we know of, which are the Caucasians. We know this. But this letting you know that, look, you just can't put them in the category just about themselves, which we know that they are, but you also got what's called the isles of the Gentiles. And it started right here, but that don't mean that it stayed right here, because throughout time, civilizations and everything would be set up and would spread elsewhere. But this was the isle of the Gentiles, what we're looking at here in the red. So if you go to well, you can keep it here, and we don't just read off it. It's like Ham was the youngest son of Noah. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. That would be what they call us. That's one of those bywords, Negroes. But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, to name a few. And you look at the map, this everything that's in green. Now you look at the little boxes to the left, you have the Arvadites, the Timonites, the Erethites, the Sinites, the Sidonians. All these people, all these different ones were sons of Canaan. But everything that's in the green, and if you really look, even in the red where you see the Isle of the Gentiles, if you look up top, you'll see something in the yellow which represents Shem, that's Lud. They was kind of over there as well, but everything that's in the green, even in parts of where you see the red with the Isle of the Gentiles kind of right at that border, but also where you see where it's yellow, which would be the descendants of Shem, you see some green there like Shinar and Sheba and Raamah and stuff like that, and the Hamathites and Heth. You see all that, but where you have like this little red square in the center towards the top, where it says Canaan, that today is what you call Gaza. What Canaan is today, well, a little bit softer than what it is today. What Canaan is today, that would be basically Israel. That's what you call Israel, what you call Israel. And just softer that is what would be called Philistia, not Gaza, take that back. Philistia, or the Philistines. Right under where it says Canaan, right under that red square is where you would have the Philistines. Well, you had, what's his name? Goliath. Goliath was a Philistine. He was one of the giant Philistines that David conquered or whatnot. But that's that. So that's with Japheth, that's with Ham. And it says Ham, the youngest son of Noah, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, the Libyans, and Canaanites, to name a few. And if we go to slide number 4, it says Shem. Shem was the second son of Noah. He was the middle son. He became the progenitor of the Semitic race. So everybody who comes from Shem, they would be considered what you call Semitic. Like you had this thing with Esau and them be pushing, talking about anti-Semiticism, like people just going against them. But the thing is, they are Semitic and we are Semitic, because that's our brother. It's like he became the progenitor of the Semitic race. For example, the Negroes, the Ishmaelites, these are Arabs. These are the Arabs. And the Edomites, these are the people who call themselves Jews who are over there in the land today. Esau, these are the Edomites, those who call themselves Jews. It says lived 600 years, outliving his descendants for 9 generations. So like I said, we go back to that map and we see Shem in the yellow. That's what all Shem. That's what they call, this is still Africa. All of this that's in the yellow here, this is still the continent of Africa. Now when you get to what's in the red, that's Europe. That's not Africa anymore. But what's here in the yellow, this is still Africa. But in between the green and the yellow, you have the Suez Canal. That wasn't always there in ancient times. That was put there for transport and ports for ships and things of that sort. But that wasn't always there. So that open water space right there, that wasn't always there. You know, where it has, where that Red Sea, a little bit over there with that water space, right here by Canaan, you can't really see it. It's real small. But that Suez Canal is kind of right up in there. But the Red Sea, this is what they crossed when they was coming out of Egypt. Crossing over the Red Sea into the land. But Shem, we see Shem kind of scattered. You got Ophir, which is actually a part of Ham in the green. And towards the bottom here, you see it scattered. So you see where the Semitic people are kind of scattered. And it would be Israel. It would also be the Arabs. And you had Esau, which would be the Edomites. But that was page 3. No, page 4, where we talked about Shem. Let's go back to the scriptures and we're gonna come back here in a little bit. Let's go back to the scriptures and we're gonna come right back here in a little bit. Let's go to Genesis 10, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 2 this time. Genesis 10, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 2. And when you get there, read.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus.
Because look, we know when we talk about the end times and the second battle, the third battle, the first battle, the third battle, things of that sort, maybe you hear about Gog and Magog. Well, we know this is talking about Russia and things of that sort. So this is from that Isles of the Gentiles, like the son of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshach and Tyrus. Verse 3.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephath, and Togarmah.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, because you got what's called Ashkenazi Jews. Now, Ashkenazi Jews was interesting. All of them are not just Gentiles. You got some, like this guy that be on TV, Vlad TV. He called himself an Ashkenazi Jew, but he is actually an actual Jew. But it's based off a region where he's from. For his people from Russia or whatnot. And they called Ashkenazi Jew. But for the most part, Ashkenazi in and of itself are Gentiles, because they from the Isle of the Gentiles. So you'll see that with Esau, with the Edomites, they call themselves Jews. They'll kind of mix themselves over here and kind of go over here or whatnot and say they this people and that people, because we know what type of purposes. But that was verse 3, verse 4, and continue.
And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dudanim.
He's like in the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. Verse 5.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. So we looked at the PowerPoint with Ham and with Shem. Let's continue, verse 6 and continue.
And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan.
And the sons of Ham, now these would be what they known as the Canaanites, the Ethiopians, the Egyptians. These are some of your, now today we got the Cameroon, we got Ghana, we got Zimbabwe, we got all these different places like Kenyans. But just looking at the map, Ham started right there in that section. And that's not to say other parts, everybody somewhere else, they from somewhere else, because we know with Noah's sons, everybody on the planet of this, that has been on the planet Earth during this time and after the flood, was from one of Noah's 3 sons. And these other people, the Cameroon and all these people like that, these are Hamites as well. These are Hamites. Now, lost up in the big continent of Africa, you have what's a lot of the lost tribes, what they call them, the 10 tribes of Israel, under the Assyrian captivity, because Assyrians, they were Hamites. It's like in the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Verse 7.
And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramamah, and Septecha. And the sons of Ramamah, Sheba, and Dedan.
He's like in the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Septecha, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. So we see that. Look, that's Hamites right there. That's verse 7. Skip down to verse 22 and continue.
The children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphax, and Lud, and Aram.
The children of Shem, these are the Semitic people. This is where we come from. We come from them. We not Hamites. We come from them. Because look, they got brothers online on stuff now. They go to Africa. They can talk about the motherland and all this. Soon they identify that you, one of the Negroes, or you African American, quote unquote, they charging you an extra price. They charging you extra. They raising up the price. They price gouging. It's a lot of reports of them Hamites over there in the continent of Africa, Kenya, all these different countries, charging when they find out that you are African American, quote unquote, an Israelite, they charging you more. It's been going on. It's even getting worse now, especially with the way things are. They like the children of Shem, that would be us. These are the Semitic people. This is who we come from. This is the lineage that Jesus came through. It's like Elam and Asher and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. Verse 23, continue.
And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphax begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber.
And Arphaxad begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber. Now, who else was one of the famous Hamites that we know of in government? Barack Obama. He was a Hamite. These were some of the first people that enslaved us. And what people was doing, oh, we got a black president. We got a black president. He gonna look out. Look, he was looking out for the LGBTQ. They got more rights than what we did during that time. And see, people don't understand, but see, when you understand from a biblical standpoint, you understand the history that, look, Barack was because his dad was a Kenyan. He was a Hamite. Kenyans are Hamites. We are Israelites. It's never been a union between them, ever. And so we understand why we didn't get what we get. Now, it's the government system, that's another story, but it's like in the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Selah, and Selah begat Eber. Verse 25, and continue.
And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. So
we dealing with Shem here, with the Semitic people, who the Lord would come through, and the Israelites would come through from this son of Noah, from this descendant. And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg. We're going to see that name in a minute here in a second. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Skip down to verse 30 and continue.
And her dwelling was from Mesha, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, after their nations.
These are the sons of Shem after their families. Let you know that even though you got the Hamites and Shem that are the same color, they not of the same family, all of the same tongue. The Bible is distinguishing in that. He's like, these are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues, in their lands. It was all tribal, after their nations. Because why? It's a difference between the two. Can't just go off skin color. It's a difference between the two, biblically and from a DNA standpoint. That was verse 31. Verse 32, it continued.
These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations and their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
These are the families of the sons of Noah, because they went through the whole chronological, whole genealogy of it. After their generations and their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. Everybody on the face of the earth today is from one of these three sons. The Gentiles trace back to Japheth. Now, was Japheth white? Was he a white man under Noah? No, he was not. He was not, because if you go and you look at some history, some not so far away history, you can look and see that you had supposedly two dark-skinned couples had a child. The child come out white, blue eyes. And the doctor was trying to say, this happened several times. The doctor was trying to say that it's a albino. It's not an albino. Wasn't an albino. So what that's letting you know, right here, that look, with this whole creation, this is how it played out with the Lord and with Shem doing this. Now, yes, they in Africa. Most of them, when you see this, was on the continent of Africa. But the thing is, you better believe this was Israel, from a descendant of Shem, that this happened. And this is where you get the isles of the Gentiles come from that. That was verse 32. Let's go to Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to pick it up at verse 17. Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to pick it up at verse 17. Because we're going to get into these names and the origin of these names, what they meant, where they came from, when they was prevalent amongst our culture. We're going to look at it here in a second. Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to pick it up at verse 17. And when you get there, read.
And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years, and begat sons and daughters.
Now, we had just seen that Shem, this was one of them sons, Peleg. So this is somebody who was Semitic. This is somebody who was Semitic right here. You have Peleg and Joktan. These are Semitic people from Shem. That was verse 17, verse 18. Let's see something. Verse 18 to continue.
And Peleg lived 30 years, and begat Reu. And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 209 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Reu lived 230 years, and begat Serug. And Reu lived after he begat Serug 207 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and begat Nahor. And Serug lived after he begat Nahor 200 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years, and begat Terah. And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years, and begat sons and daughters.
And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years, and begat sons and daughters. Let's see something here. Verse 26 and continue.
And Terah lived 70 years, and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran.
Oh, so Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram. Who is this Abram? Who will later become Abraham. Because people be like, well, look, was Abraham, look, everybody come from Africa. Abraham, he was a Hamite, so what make him an Israelite? All these things. But we looking at the fact that he was from Shem, a descendant of Shem, deriving from Terah, and this is Abraham. He was Semitic. Because the Israelites are Semitic. They are not Hamites. That was verse 26, verse 27, and continue.
Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran, and Haran begot Lot.
These are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, who would later be named Abraham, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot. That was verse 8, and we know about Sodom and Gomorrah with Lot. We know about this. That was verse 27, verse 28.
And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah.
He's like Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and would later be changed to Sarah. And the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. Verse 30.
But Sarai was barren. She had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, the son's son, and Sarah his daughter-in-law, his son's Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur to the Chaldees, to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there.
So look, they went on a journey. So let's see what happened. Let's go to Genesis chapter 12, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Genesis 12 and verse 1. And when you get there, read.
Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing.
The Lord said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Verse 3.
And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curses thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Why? Because coming from Abraham, you was going to have Isaac. And from Isaac, you was going to have Jacob. And Jacob, his name will later be turned into Israel. He would have them 12 sons, the Israelites. And what did the Bible say? Salvation is of the Jews. That's why the people who Esau, the Edomites, claiming that they these important people, but they are not. DNA doesn't line up and show they are not. Now, oftentimes we was in captivity, they was right there too. But you look at what's going on today, and we did several lessons of that. And we know that a lot of Edomites, they know that they ain't the real people. You know how we know? Last time I did a lesson on the Edomites, Esau perpetual hatred. The Edomites' perpetual hatred of the Israelites. That lesson had about 900 and some views in the matter of a couple weeks. Now we just really getting going or whatnot. We don't have that many views at this point yet, But it had that many. What that let me know? People watching, they know what time it is. They seeing who know what's going on, or how much certain individuals know. They know what's going on. Hey, cut that switch off, that heat off right there. When it's cold outside, they had an AC on, and it's kind of warm, feel good. They got the heat on. They got the heat on. But anyway, yeah, they know, like, the lesson had so many, and then one of them said in the comments, I know it was Esau, I ain't even worried about it. We was talking about it and breaking things down. You know what he said? Straight BS. Like, yeah, I know it's some straight BS. You ain't seen no BS yet. Wait till the Lord come and deal with you. Because by them saying they us, the Bible lets you know in Revelation chapter 3 that is blasphemy. Right. That is blasphemy by saying you somebody, the chosen, and you are not. So you ain't seen no BS yet, but they said that, left that in the comment. But Esau was looking, I'm talking about the numbers went at 900 and some people seeing this in the mouth. I was like, goodness great. And that let me know they got eyes on us. And we know this. But let's go further. Let's go to Genesis chapter 25, and we're going to pick it up at verse 11. Genesis 25, and we're going to pick it up at verse 11. But see, a lot of people, look, we just known as Negro and African-American, Afro-American. We're going to look at all that in just a second to see where that stuff came from and when it originated. Genesis 25, and we're going to pick it up at verse 11, and we're going to do a little skip. Genesis 25 and verse 11, and when you get there, read.
And it came to pass after the death of Abraham, that God blessed his son Isaac. And Isaac dwelt by the well of Lahorah.
Lahorah. So we fast forward for time's sake. But Abraham, he would have a son. He would have his firstborn son, which was Ishmael. Ishmael, these are, the progenitors of the Arabs. Who were Israel, the Edomites, they had war, a controversy for the land. They fighting over Israel and all this stuff with the Palestinians, who is Arabs, the Jordanians, Arabs, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Dubai, all these all Arabs, with all the oil and stuff like that, all Arabs. So that was his first son, Ishmael, by his handmaid Hagar. And you also have the Ishmaelites, Arabs, they go by another biblical name, the Hagarites, based off their mother, Hagar. They go by that as well. But that was verse 11. Skip down to verse 19 and continue.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram.
Yeah, Padanaram. Like these are the generations of Isaac. So Isaac was Abraham's second son. And see, Abraham was thinking, because the Lord was telling him he was going to raise up somebody from him. But look, Hagar, she was a bondwoman. She wasn't a free woman. Sarah was. And Sarah didn't have any kids at the time. So he thinking it's going to be Ishmael that's going to be this chosen people. The Lord's like, I'm going to raise up one from your own loins. Raise up somebody from your own seed. And this would be Isaac, who would have his son Jacob. So this is what we about to read here. He's like, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister to Laban, the Syrian. Verse 21.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord.
Because look, she having these unusual pains and things going on because she got twins inside of her. She got twins, and it's not like what's going on is a little bit more extreme. So she went to inquire of the Lord and asked him, look, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. Verse 23, continue.
And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people, 2 different type of people. Even though they connected in brothers, they are different. 2 different nations, in other words. And they shall be separated from thy bowels. Soon as you give birth, they're going to be separated. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the... Imagine that. You have twins. Soon you give birth, they just at each other's throat. They can't get along going forward from here on out. This is what the Lord was telling Rebekah about the Edomites, or Esau and Jacob. Because these were the twins that was in the womb at the time. Verse 24 and continue.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob.
Ain't that something? And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they call his name Esau. Now we dealing with Semitic people now. Because look, we got our Hebrew brothers, a good faction, different camps that think that Esau is Gentiles. Now, yes, we see Ashkenazi, and we know Ashkenazi Jews, and most of them are. The majority of them are. But Esau is not a Gentile. Esau is Semitic. He is Semitic. Because we dealing with Shem. We dealing with Semitic people. Gentiles are not Semitic. They are not Semitic. And see, you got that misinterpretation in this era that's amongst the Hebrew brothers that be saying, because we got friends we go fishing with, You know, he's like, look at that Edomite. Talking about a white man. I was like, look, man, that ain't no Edomite. He's like, what difference do it make? They ain't Israel. Well, look, if you're going to call them a biblical term, you might as well call them the right name according to the Bible.
Right.
If you're going to call them what difference do it make? They ain't Israel. Well, look, you might as well not even say it, you know, call them an Edomite or a Gentile or whatnot. He's like, and the first came out all red, all over like a hairy garment, and they call his name Esau. Now, yes, you have some, you know, Gentiles that are all red, they turn red, but that don't mean, you have light-skinned people. You have mulattoes, you have biracial that are real light-skinned. Back in the day, we'd call, look, yeah, that's a red bone, that's a yellow bone now, or stuff like that, you know, we call just nicknames for different shades of people or whatnot. There was some Ebonics amongst our community. But somebody real light-skinned, they can turn red. Now me, I'm not gonna turn red. If I turn red, I got an allergic reaction, something wrong. I need to go to the doctor. I'm not gonna really turn red. But you got some lighter skinned people who can turn red. So we're not talking about just the Gentiles right here. This is Esau, this is Semitic. He's like, and after that came out his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So Jacob, noticed they didn't give a color for him. Why? Because it was common that he was of dark skin. But Esau came out of a different skin color. So they had to describe that here in the Bible. That was verse 26. Let's go further. Let's go to Genesis chapter 28, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10. Genesis 28, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10. Genesis 28, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10. Because I'll be hearing that, I'll be like, man. And see, it's real confusing. People be like, yeah, see the Gentiles, see the Asians, you know, see they. Because see, I'm going to tell you where that comes from. Because see, before I came all the way into this truth, I was following some brothers. I ain't going to say the name. I ain't going to throw them under the bus. But I was following some brothers, some super Hebrew stuff. And they say that the Asians and the Gentiles and the white man is Semitic, that they are, you know, that they are Semitic, the same people. And they believe that Lot's 2 daughters, Moab, you know, and you got Moab, his 2 daughters that committed incest with him, and Ammon. They say that the Asians are Semitic too because they committed incest with Lot's, you know, with their father, and that's why they got slanted eyes, because they retarded. That's the doctrine. That is the doctrine. That's what they say. They have slanted eyes because they, you know, it's a retardation. But these people, I'm talking about making the best cars, the most reliable cars, Toyota, Honda. I'm talking about they AI, they technology, they can Samsung phones, all kind of stuff. Now, if you call that retarded, I need to be retarded. Because I wouldn't have to go to work no more. These people are I'm talking about very, very smart, but they are from the Isles of the Gentiles. They are not Semitic. But that's how they tie that in. We can't read that because they committed incest with their dad, that they had retardation. We can't read that because Lot and his daughters, because if Lot was Semitic, you are what the father is. You are what the seed is. The man has the seed.
Right.
Your mother might be this, and you might have attributes of that, but you are with the seed. You can't plant an apple seed in an orange field and get oranges. You're going to get apples. Whatever the seed is, the seed comes from the man. The woman has the egg, the man has the seed. So you are what your father is. You have people like, yeah, I'm Italian and Jamaican and all these different. Look, what is your father? Because that is what your nationality is. But if Lot was Semitic, well then he had the seed, and his daughters committed incest, was an abomination to the Lord. Ammon and Moab, that lets you know that they were also Semitic. They were also Semitic. But that was that. Let's go to Genesis 28, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10. Genesis 28 and verse 10. And when you get there, read.
And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted up upon a certain place, and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place, and put them for his pillows, and lay down it in their place to sleep.
So we fast forward because, look, we know with the birthright, Esau, he despised his birthright. Maybe because he was of a different color. I don't know. He despised his birthright, sold it for some red beans, some red pottage, some red beans and some stew to his brother Jacob. Jacob got the birthright. You know, his mother the Lord told his mother to have him, they told him who was going to serve who. Right. So that's why she got the goat's hair and put it on him. Isaac was old. He couldn't really see. All he could do is feel. And he gave a blessing to Jacob because he thought it was Esau. Right. But it was meant to go to Jacob because the Lord had already told her who was going to serve who. And you had these false pastors in these Sunday churches and stuff talking about Jacob lied, that he stole the birthright. No, he didn't. You got to go back and read and see why they say that, because they don't do a whole bunch of reading. Right. They don't do a whole bunch of reading over there in those organizations, in that denomination or whatnot, in those churches. But if you go back and read Genesis 25, you can see where it says who was going to serve who, because she was the one inquiring of the Lord, why was she thus? Mm-hmm. He's like, look, you got two manner of people in you, two nations that shall be separated from the bowels, and the elder going to serve the younger. The elder going to serve the younger. The elder was Esau. The younger was Jacob. So that was that. That was what verse we left off? We left off at
we have verse
11.
Verse 12 right now.
Okay, verse 12. But I'm fast forward because what we did, we kind of fast forward. So after Jacob got the blessing, Esau wanted to kill his brother. So his mom, Rebecca, told him, look, you got to flee to, with your uncle Laban, because your brother has, purpose to kill you. So we looking at him in his flight, he done left because Esau wanted to kill him over the birthright that he didn't even want. But that was verse 11, verse 12.
And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it.
So look, he in this place, in this holy place, and this is what they call Jacob's ladder, what they refer to as Jacob's ladder right here. And he having his vision, and he dreaming, but it's a vision, and he behold a ladder set up on the earth. So the ladder is on the earth where he is, and in the top of the ladder, it reaches all the way to heaven. And he's seeing angels of the Lord, Holy Spirit, holy angels, ascending and descending, going to and fro. Let's see what happened. Verse 13 and continue.
And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed.
So this was the promised land where he was taking his nap at, having his dream, having his vision. This was the land flowing with milk and honey. He's like, I am the Lord God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. Who is the seed today? We are descendants of that seed. That was verse 13, verse 14, and continue.
And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
So look, I like to look at this verse, because this verse, a lot of people skip it up and kind of go over their head and under their nose. But it was meant for us to be scattered to all four corners of the earth. It was meant for us. It's just the condition in which it happened, we got the curse on us now. But it was meant for us to be scattered throughout all the four corners of the earth. But we were supposed to be blessed only doing the work of the Lord. Now we curse and have to do the work of the Lord. But this lets you know right here, and thy seed, talking about the Israelites, shall be as the dust of the earth. And thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Why? Because salvation is of the Jews, and Jesus would come through the tribe of Judah. This is why. That was verse 14, verse 15, and continue.
And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land. For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of.
And just think about it. Us as what they call blacks or African American, though biblically our nationality is Israelite. Think about all the slavery and stuff, how we've been harmed, all the atrocities, all kind of stuff We've been gator bait. You name, I'm talking about some bad stuff that I can't even say right now. All the stuff that has happened, and you know what? We are still here. Why are we still here? Well, all the stuff, well, all these generations and centuries of the Gentiles trying to wipe us out, we still here. Why? Right here in verse 15. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land. Because the Lord got a covenant that he made to Abraham and Isaac at this point, but later it would be Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Wasn't Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It was a covenant. For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of. Verse 16.
And Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not.
Now he's like, look, and Jacob awaked out of his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. That's why they let you know in Job chapter 33 that, look, in the vision, you know what I'm saying, in the dream, in the visions of the night, you have a dream or whatnot, you don't know what it means. Then the Lord seal your instruction. You start living life, have a revelation like, okay, this is what the Lord was trying to show me something. This is what the Lord was trying to show me. Start off in a dream, which actually was a vision though. That was verse 16. Verse 17, we can go a little bit further.
And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven.
He said he was afraid to say, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Let's go to Genesis 32, and we're going to pick it up at verse 22. Genesis 32, and we're going to pick it up at verse 22. Genesis 32 and verse 22. Because the problem what we have, we know ourselves by the curse, by these bywords. We don't know, a lot of us, I take it back, a lot of us don't even know we curse. We know ourselves by the byword, which is a curse, and by Proverbs, which is the stereotypes. You know, all black people eat watermelon and stuff like that. See, them Proverbs, you know, those are Proverbs, those little saying, those little negative stereotypes. But bywords are a name other than your name, your biblical name or nationality, which is Israel. Black, African American, Afro American, Negro, colored. These are bywords. That is elements of the curse. Because none of those describe a nationality. You know who else is African American? Elon Musk. He a white, he a Gentile from South America. I mean, from South Africa, born in South Africa, got citizenship over here in America. You know what he known as? An African American. See how loosely that term is used? That's how loosely that term, that's the problem with that term. Elon Musk is an African American. You got some Asian people that are African Americans. That's the problem with it. But that was that, Genesis 32 and verse 22. When you get there, read.
And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 woman servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford Jabbok.
So by this time, we fast forward for time, say, look, Jacob, he done had 11 of the 12 tribes. He done had 11 of them. And he trying to get out of it because his uncle Laban was just trying to pull it off on him. He really wanted Rachel, but he gave him Leah. Had to work for 7 years to get the wrong one, got Leah, but it was meant for him to have Leah because he had some of the tribes, you know what I'm saying, some of the tribes of Israel through Leah and through her handmaid. And then he finally got, after 7 other years, he got Rachel and had some of the other tribes along with her handmaid. So he leaving now, this is what we picking up, he leaving with his 2 wives, Rachel and Leah, and his 11 sons, the 12, with 11 of the 12 tribes of Israel. It's like when he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants, that was Bilnah, that was Zilnah and Bilnah, those 2, and his 11 sons, and passed over for Jabbok. Verse 23 and continue.
And he took them and sent them over the brook and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone. And there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. So
look, he's like, he was left alone. He sent them over the brook for Jabbok. You know, he went to sit them over the brook. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day, until dawn. He wrestling with a man. Now this ain't really a man. This ain't the Lord either, because he gonna later say he was wrestling with God, but he wasn't. This was an angel he was wrestling with. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. The angel touched his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. The angel just touched his thigh, and his leg was out of his thigh was dislocated. Because you a man wrestling with something that is super, I'm talking about a spiritual being that's showing themselves as a man. That was verse 25, verse 26, and continue.
And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me.
Boy, Jacob was on it.
Right.
Jacob holding on to that angel like, look, I ain't gonna let you go. Like, look, you done broke my thigh, I'm gonna just wrestle, I'm gonna just hold on to you. He's like, look, let me go, for the day breaketh, what the angel told him. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. So he knew this was something, but he was thinking it was God, but it was an angel. Let's see what happened. Verse 27 and continue.
And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed.
And this is where Jacob's name goes from Jacob to Israel. His sons known as Israelites. This is where the name change come right here. And what does it mean? He's like, and he said unto him, what is thy name? And Jacob told him, look, he said Jacob. And the angel said, he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and has prevailed. That's what Israel stands for. And this is also one of the Lord's. This is Jesus, one of his names of many as well. But that was verse 28. Verse 29, we're going to go a little bit further.
And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there.
And he blessed him there. So now it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But when we see Jacob, we know that that's Israel. That's why you got a lot of brothers, they changed their name, their last name to Israel. And we're going to read that here in a little bit. But let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 7, and we're going to pick it up at verse 13. See, this is the history you're not going to get in any kind of educational system at all, unless you're dealing with the truth. You is not going to get, they did not teach me that all my year. I went to college, all kind of stuff. They didn't teach me any of this. I didn't get this in any of my training. They took, what they was doing is giving us Eurocentric history. Christopher Columbus, Napoleon, colonizers is all we was learning about. 2 Chronicles chapter 7, and we're going to pick it up at verse 13. And I'm not saying we can't learn about them, but how about let's learn about some other people besides just in the shortest month of the year, February. We'll hear about Martin Luther King and stuff like that. 2 Chronicles chapter 7, and we're going to pick it up at verse 13. And when you get there, read.
If I shut up heaven that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves, and pray and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and will forgive their sins, and will heal their land.
If I shut up heaven that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence, talking about diseases and stuff like that, viruses, an epidemic, a pandemic, among my people, if my people which are called by my name, what name? Are we called Jesus? No, we call Israel. That's the name he's talking about. If my people which are called by my name, which is Israel, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 45. We're going to read one verse, verse 4, and then we're going to look at some more PowerPoint slides here. Isaiah 45, we're going to read one verse, verse 4. Isaiah 45, we're going to read that one verse, verse 4. Isaiah 45 and verse 4. And when you get there, Isaiah 45:4. When you get there, read.
For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel my elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee. Thou hast not known me.
Ain't that something? Ain't that the condition we in today? For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel my elect. Because his name changed from Jacob to Israel. Israel my elect, that's the chosen of the Lord. I have even called thee by thy name. I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee. What is surname? What is a surname? That's your last name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. The Lord, look, that's why you got a lot of brothers, look, they'll be calling themselves, their last name Israel, because of this right here. They come into the truth and find out this word and change their last name to Israel. Because that's what the Lord that's who we are. That's what the Lord gonna do in the end anyway. That was verse 4. Let's go back to the slides here. Let's go back to we left off on slide number 4. Let's pick it up at slide 5 and 8. Like I said, I've uploaded it to the program, and for some reason they put the slides out of order. But let's go to number 5. Well, first, let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Let's go Deuteronomy 28 first, and then we're going to come down. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 first. Let's go take a look at something. Let's make it all make sense. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 first, and then we're going to go back to the slide, the PowerPoints. Deuteronomy 28, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Deuteronomy 28, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. And when you get there, read.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
If it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently, I'm talking about really paying attention to what the word of God, what the Lord is saying, unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations on the earth, of the earth. And we know that did not happen. But this is considering the blessings right here. Let's go to verse 2 and continue.
And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
He's like, look, blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Verse 5.
Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
Look, you just can't stay blessed. They just, when you're going, when you're coming in, when you're going out. Blessings. Verse 7 and continue.
The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. The Lord shall command a blessing upon thee and thy storehouses, and all that thou sittest thine hand unto, and he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, and thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, and walk in his ways.
The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, and walk in his way. Did Israel do that? We like, look, all them laws been done away with. The Lord got it set up that you just listen to his word and do these things. What Israel saying, and the pastor doesn't, you know, all this stuff, all the law, all that been, see that the Lord, when he died on the cross, all that in it, that been done away with. Go to church on the first day and versus the 7th day. Doing everything but. That was verse 9, verse 10 to continue.
And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by thy name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee.
And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid. Now, what's funny, you got a good bit of Gentiles that know that we are Israel. You might even just have more they know we Israel than Israel they know we Israel. Ain't that crazy? That is something else. Because you really get to talking to some of them, they like, yeah, look, y'all the chosen people. And you be shocked. You're like, man, I wonder how many. It's a lot of them that know this. But they let you know, and all people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. Now, even the ones that don't know that we call by the name of the Lord, you know what they are? Afraid of us. We be going in our own house, with keys in our pocket to the door. Get in there, somebody come hem you up, a Karen or a King come hem you up like, what you doing in this neighborhood? And you live there. Police might even come, call the police on you going in your house. You might get shot because this is on record. This has happened. Go in the wrong house. You ain't supposed to be there. Like the brother Brotham John in Dallas, he in there eating ice cream, watching TV. Comfortable in his house. Woman and police officer that came in, had to be on drugs, drunk or something like that in Dallas, shot the man in his own house, eating ice cream. With a bowl and a spoon, eating ice cream. Ain't that something? We walking, at a certain time on the sidewalk, they coming, you know what they gonna do? Cross over on the other side of the street. Cross over the other side of the street. Israel raised their voice. Look, they taking out their gun, ready to shoot you down. Afraid of thee. So we see this as a thing here. That was verse 10, verse 11, and continue.
And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, and the land which the Lord sware unto the fathers to give thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow.
Boy, we know we ain't under them conditions. You gonna lend only and shall not borrow. Israel be borrowing money from those people. If it ain't the credit, look, they borrow money from the credit company, credit lending companies, and don't pay them back. They got to come, do all kind of stuff. Israel borrow money from you and don't pay you back. Right. It's so many cousins I got from here to Houston I done lent money to years ago. In 07, 08. I remember, I can't ask for it back because the Lord let you know, look, give, not ask it back again. So I already know they come asking you something, that I can't spare to lose. Look, I ain't got that. I ain't got that. I ain't got that much, I ain't got that much. Like a brother in the truth, I remember just coming to try. I just really came into the other camp I was part of. I had been in the truth a little bit, had just came into that camp. I ain't been knowing this brother about 2 months. This brother asked me for $1,500. Like, bro, I know we in the truth, but look, you getting a little bit, you a little bit too carried away. Like, look, bro, I can't lend you $1,500. I can lend you $200. And then you in the truth, you gonna have to rely on the Lord for the rest, for the other $1,300. But I can lend you $200. I ain't gonna call his name. I know he check out our lesson. He know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. I ain't gonna call his name, But that was what? Verse 12, verse 13 to continue.
And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt be beneath, not be beneath, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them.
And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. We the tail and not the head now. Spiritually, we are the head. He's like, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them. Verse 14.
And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them.
So this is letting you know, when you ain't sticking to the scripts of what's written in this Bible, you ain't supposed to add anything to or take anything away. You also are not supposed to turn to the right hand or to the left, because when you do so, you are serving other gods. Because you're not listening to the Lord. You're serving the God of this world, which is Satan. You're doing. That's why it's a straight gate where we're supposed to be entering to. You can't turn to the right and to the left. That was verse 14, verse 15.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Ain't that something? It shall come to pass that thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments, all of them, not some of them, all of them, and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Look at us as a people, holistically. We at the bottom. We at the bottom of the totem pole. We at the bottom. Like you get on the elevator, they have floor 1, they have B1 and B2. We at B2. we 2 levels under the first level. We bad off as a people. Why? Because we don't know the Lord. We don't know the Lord. Not trying to know. It's one thing you don't know the Lord, because we all have been there. I have been there. But I didn't get to know the Lord, and the Lord started showing me things until I was seeking and wanted to know him. People don't want to know the Lord, but they want to be blessed and have all these good things. That's not the recipe for good things. That's the recipe for the curse, what we read here. Because verses 1 through 14 is dealing with the blessings if you was obedient. 15 through all the way through 68 is dealing with the curse. And 15 through 68 is showing you slavery. Black history, what they call it. Right here from God's mouth, from Moses right here. That was verse 15, verse 16 to continue.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
Like cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Our store, our bank account, what we got is reserves. We don't have anything. Not enough that where we can retire right now. We might have some, but once we go buy what we like and pay some bills, look, if you done quit working, you're going to be looking for another job. Because you done ran out, because our store ain't that plentiful. He like, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. And like we were talking about last night, look, you got this whole thing with this deportation taking place where they shipping out, Mexicans and all these, Venezuelans and all these different people, Haitians, they just shipping them out, Trump, shipping them out. And I was saying, look, what you think they gonna do once they ship all these people out? Who you think the focus, who you think gonna be right dead smacking the crosshairs? Israel. Why? Because cursed shall thou be in the city and cursed shall thou be in the field. Israel cheering and all kind of stuff. Look, you better do some research and see what's really going on. It's some drastic times up ahead and people don't really understand what's taking place. That was verse 18, verse 19, they continue.
Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. You see all the low-paying jobs and stuff, picking fruit in these valleys and all that stuff, California and all that. You know what Trump said? He's like, look, these immigrants, they're taking the black jobs. Look, I don't want no job picking no avocados and stuff like that. That ain't a high enough paying job for me, especially in the state of California. I don't want that job. He's like, look, they taking the black jobs. Ain't that so? Back in the fields, picking, doing kind of labor. That's something else. And see, that go over people's head. That was verse 19, verse 20.
The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou sittest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest. The
Lord shall make the pestilence. That is diseases. That ain't bugs. That ain't an infusion or just an infestation of mosquitoes or ants. The pestilence is diseases. Stuff that be in the air or whatnot that people get sick that can cause an epidemic or a pandemic. We just got through the one in 2020. Can't say the name of it because they're going to strike our channel. Ain't that so? The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess. Now let's bring up that slide here and take a look at it. Because the Lord was talking to the Israelites that was in the wilderness being led by Moses when he said this. let's go look at something in today's time and see if this holds true. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. Let's bring up this slide here, this racial disparities of STIs amongst African Americans. Where's my source? The CDC. So when you pull this from no anywhere, we got it from the CDC. STIs is sexually transmitted infections. Other words, in other terms, STDs. It says racial disparities in STI prevalence have devastating health consequences and considerable costs. For example, research consistently indicates that African Americans are more likely to be diagnosed with a variety of STI. Not one, a variety. Ain't that so? That's alarming right there in itself. You ain't got one STI, that's bad. A variety of STIs, including HIV, syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. In addition, African American men who have sex with men and women have a disproportionately higher risk of STI acquisition and often transmit infection to African American women through sexual contact. That's why you have a lot of these brothers being, in the pen behind bars. They got their eyes on another man, doing some LGBTQ stuff, get back out here trying to be behind the closet or whatnot, behind closed doors, getting with certain women. And we reading having a variety of STIs. This is how this stuff happened. And it says African American women are generally less likely to utilize health services and are disproportionately more likely to delay seeking health services when compared to white women. Why? Because that curse we ain't reading about white women in Deuteronomy 28. We're reading about Israel, African American. Further increasing the potential consequences of STIs. In addition, because the rates of infection are based on diagnosed cases rather than actual prevalence, they are likely an underestimation of the true occurrence of STIs among African Americans. Because if you don't go to the clinic and they diagnose and have this on file, you just out here. You're just out here. And that is the condition where we in here today. It is clear that contextual factors in the African American community and contributing drivers to disproportionately STI rates. However, the precise mechanisms are unknown. Not if you read Deuteronomy 28 and verse 21. Those are the mechanisms. But they saying, however, the precise mechanisms are unknown, or why this is like this. Given these findings, the overall persistence of racial disparities in STI prevalence, further research is needed to better understand the unique contextual influences that increase risk of STIs among African Americans. Look, if you want further research, tune in to Remnant of Judah and watch this lesson, because we break it down where this stuff comes from. Let's go to here. Deuteronomy chapter 28. We're still in Deuteronomy 28. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. And we're going to pick it up at verse 23 this time. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 23. That is something else. I'm not talking about it's for diabetes. It's not just STIs. It's diabetes. It's cancer. It's anything you can dream of. Anything that's out there. Israel is at the top of the charts. We're at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of class, but in terms of stuff with the curse and diseases and stuff like that, we're at the top. And the closest person is 2 times behind us. We double them, in fact, at being in the top. Why? Because of this curse here. Deuteronomy 28, verse 23. And when you get there, read.
And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron.
If the heaven that is over thy head is brass, that means, look, you sending up prayers, but the Lord ain't even listening. Why? Because you're not listening to him. So your prayers ain't getting up because, look, the heaven is brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. So look, we can't produce any fruit or anything or harvest Because the earth is iron, so we in between a rock and a hard place. And that's a proverb too.
Right. Yeah.
That's what you would call a proverb. That was verse 23. Skip down to verse 25 and continue.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
Now, we've been removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. The Lord said that was going to happen in Genesis 28 and 14 when we was reading it, but it wasn't supposed to happen with us being cursed as a people. But we were removed, but we still, you know what I'm saying, we came out and was scattered across the 4 corners of the earth with a curse. But we still have to do the work of the Lord. That didn't go away. The condition in which we was going to get this done, look, that's a thing, that's prevalent. But the fact that we was going to get scattered, look, we still supposed to be doing the work of the Lord. Because that's what he told Jacob in Genesis 28 and 14. He's like, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them. Think about it. With all these marches, you know, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, Austin Sterling, that was the one here locally in Baton Rouge. Austin Sterling, they was walking, you know, marching and stuff on Florida Boulevard, you know, and you know, hollering at the police. They out there with riot gear, ready for war. We out there with regular clothes and signs and stuff like that, cardboard signs. They out there with tear gas and assault rifles and the tank. And what they started doing, shooting that tear gas. What Israel did, flee 7 ways from before them. Flee 7 ways from before them. That's something else. That was verse 25. Skip down to verse 28 and continue.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. We crazy, got mental issues. Don't know what's going on. You know, the Bible lets you know that oppression maketh a wise man mad. And blindness, spiritual blindness, and astonishment of heart. Don't know why it's like this. But if we read these scriptures and get a hold and seek the Lord, we'll see why this is like this. And when you identify why it's like that from a spiritual aspect, now you can get on to the solution. Obeying what thus saith the Lord. That's what's missing. That was verse 28, verse 29, and continue.
And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And no man shall save thee.
And no man, he's like, look, thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. No matter what you're doing, you get up, next few months, next year, you back down. Get back up a seesaw, hamster wheel. Thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Ain't nobody coming to our rescue. We voting for this person and that person. They lying, they politicians. That's what they supposed to do. They lying, saying they gonna do this and that. It ain't getting done. They get in office, look, they don't remember nothing what they said. They ain't doing any of that stuff. Verse 30 and continue.
Thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
Mm-hmm.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them.
Look, I be hearing these Gentiles be like, yeah, man, I got 100 acres of land. I got 1,000, you know, my grandfather left me 5,000 acres of land. Why? Because of this right here. Israel has some farmland, Ku Klux Klan or whoever they come take it. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. This is American slavery, and not just American. It happened all across the globe. And it's bad, and as crazy as it is, what's bad, they had no regard of God. They had no regard of the Lord, because what they was doing was adultery. And they got to pay for that. Even though they in the ground, been dead, they got to pay for that. The Lord going to wake them up and judge them according to these things. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face. They ain't asking you for it. They gonna ask you for it. You say no, they taking it violently. You get hung or killed. And shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Now you'll think if this is happening on U.S. soil, they gonna step in and do something about it. That's what you would think. That was verse 31, verse 32, and continue.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
Look, they take your child, look, and you in Louisiana, they send them to South Carolina. You don't know where they send, they just send them. To do what? Slavery. And to produce more slaves for more manpower. They had, do you know they had breeding farms for women, for slave women, to produce more slaves? Ain't that something? Verse 33, continue.
The fruit of thy land, and all thy labors, shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed all way.
Ain't that something? The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed all way. Verse 34.
So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
And look, we see this, look, sometimes, look, we in the truth, you see certain stuff, it will make you mad. Like, whoa, you have to catch yourself like, look, this is the curse. This is the curse. We ain't no civil rights activists. We servants of the Lord. We ain't civil rights activists. We ain't getting out there marching. We trying to get people to march on in here and hear this truth. This is the real movement. Because the people out there marching, the people in the front of the crowd is false pastors that's being paid under the table. And we're gonna read and show something. We're gonna show an example of some of these organizations that were supposed to have been on Israel's side, was not. They were being paid and controlled by somebody else. That was verse 34. Skip down to verse 36 and continue.
The Lord shall bring thee, and thy king which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods in wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee.
And this is where I got this title from. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. And I told you, a proverb, those were those sayings. These stereotypes that look, all black people, look, they love watermelon. Look, you want some watermelon and some chicken? Look, everybody love chicken. Everybody love chicken. And you know what? They love our chicken. They like how we cook that chicken. I love chicken. Everybody love the Ages. You go to the Ages store, they selling chicken. Everywhere trying to sell some chicken. They just can't make it as good. But the thing is, this is a proverb. This is one of those derogatory sayings, a stereotype. You got some people you got some Israel that's vegan, don't eat no meat. But because you Israel, you dark skin, you black, you love watermelon and chicken. Ain't that something? And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and now a byword. What's a byword? Let's put that slide back up. Let's go back to the PowerPoint and see by definition what a proverb is, a byword is. And we're gonna look at some examples of some of the common ones that we familiar with here in this world, particularly in this country. Slide number 6. Let's take a look and see what a byword is. Okay. Let me know when it get up there.
It won't go.
Number 6.
I know
The next one should be the next one.
the whole thing is gone.
Oh, it is?
Oh, no, this is it.
Oh, yeah. So, a byword, in biblical terms, refers to a person, place, or thing that becomes a subject of scorn, ridicule, or a cautionary example. The term is often used in the context of divine judgment or as a consequence of disobedience to God's commandment. That's what we just read in Deuteronomy 28:37. In the Bible, a byword is typically associated with shame and reproach, serving as a warning to others. Let's go to the next one here. Let's look at some examples of something. We're going to start off with the most derogatory one. Let's go to slide number 7. The old-fashioned N-word. In the English, the word nigger, in the English language, nigger is a racial slur directed at black people. Starting in the 1990s, references to nigger have been increasingly replaced by the euphemistic contraction, the N-word. They think they doing, being nice by not saying the whole word. They saying, the N-word. Look, that's still derogatory. Notably in cases where nigger is mentioned but not directly used. In an instance of linguistic reappropriation, ain't that something? Linguistic reappropriation. The term nigger is also used casually and fraternally, like we are brotherhood. Amongst African Americans, most commonly in the form of nigga with an A. That's supposed to make it cool. Ain't that something? Linguistic reappropriation, the term nigga is also used casually and fraternally. Like, if you one of us, you can say that word with the A. Amongst African Americans, most commonly in the form of nigga, whose spelling reflects the phonology of African American English. Ain't that something how they got that word like that? This is something else. And what we doing, we on the record, we on rap on songs, all kind of stuff. This, what's up, my, all that stuff. And all this is a byword. This is proof of the curse that we have adapted to and accepted versus trying to turn to be called by Israelites. That's something else. It says the origin of the word lies with the Latin adjective Niger, meaning black, because you had the country Niger in Africa. It was initially seen as a relatively neutral term, essentially synonymous with the English word Negro. Early attested uses during the Atlantic slave trade, 16th and 19th century, often conveyed a merely patronizing attitude. The word took on a derogatory connotation from the mid-18th century onward and degenerated into an overt slur by the middle of the 19th century. So the middle of the 19th century would be like 1850. So even though they call it the 19th century, really what it is that century behind that is the 18th century is what we're talking about. It's like by 1859, the term was clearly used to offend. Let's go to the next slide, slide number 8. See, this is what they're not going to go over in Black History Month, go over all this stuff. Because if you want to teach kids in school and education structure Black history, open up Deuteronomy 28. But it's a solution in there in Deuteronomy 28. So they won't go to these extents to kind of teach this. You only get this with somebody who's reading these scriptures and dealing with this truth. Slide number 8, it says colored. This is another byword. Colored or colored is a racial descriptor historically used in the United States during the Jim Crow era to refer to an African American. Now we know the African American, this is Israel. It's just a byword. African American is a byword. In many places, it may be considered a slur. The word colored was first used in the 14th century, so this was in the 1300s actually, but with a meaning other than race and ethnicity. The earliest uses of the term to denote a member of dark-skinned groups of people occurred in the second part of the 18th century in reference to South America. Because why South America? Because this is where Israelite slaves started going first. Slavery started, the transatlantic slave trade started in South America, known as Brazil and all these places, Portuguese. It started there. And then it worked its way to Central America, known as Mexico. Then it got to North America. But that's with the Gentile slave. That's not including the Arab slave trade that was going to the other places, to the east of the world, to Cambodia and places like that, and India and places like that. The term came in use in the United States during the early 19th century, and it then was adopted by emancipated slaves as a term of racial pride after the end of the Civil War. until it was replaced as the self-designation by black or African American during the second part of the 20th century. Due to its use in the Jim Crow era to designate items or places restricted to African Americans, the word colored is now usually considered to be offensive. Because you know they had the water faucets, like look, the water that ain't even plugged up, the hot water faucet, you know, for colored only. You go to a restaurant, you gotta go eat in the bathroom in the back somewhere, where the colored people sit. The colored people sit right here on the bus. But they said, due to its use in the Jim Crow era to designate items or places restricted to African Americans, the word colored is now usually considered to be offensive. And my question is, why do you have a group that is called the NAACP? You know what NAACP stands for? The National Association of Advancement for Colored People. Why do they still have colored as a part of their title? If that is offensive, they supposed to be standing for, you know, the rights and the civil rights of African Americans, so-called. You know why? Because even though they had trailblazers like Ida B. Wells and W.B. Du Bois, whenever they would write something, and W.B. Du Bois might have been the most educated and astute one of all, the whole founder of them. So they regarded as the founders, but they could not write a publication and put it in the newspaper without it passing through the people who actually created the NAACP. Who were they? The Gentiles and the Edomites. I got some names. Who were the Jews that was over this? Emil Hirsch. He was a Jewish founder of the NAACP. You had Stephen Weiss, was another Edomite, founder of the NAACP. Now, as far as the Gentiles, the whites, you had a guy named Charles Russell, founder of the NAACP. And you had William Walton, another Gentile over the NAACP. So it's no wonder why they would leave that name, NAACP, Advancement of Colored People, when this is supposed to be you would think they would change the name. But let's go to the next slide. Let's go to number 9, slide number 9 here. And we're gonna pick it up at this one here. This is what we been mentioning through this lesson, African American. African Americans, this is another byword. And it's a byword because anything where we are not identified as our biblical nationality as Israelites, anything else we call is a byword. African Americans, also known as Black Americans, and formerly also called Afro-Americans, are an American racial or ethnic group consisting of Americans with partial or total ancestry from any of the black racial groups of Africa. African Americans constitute the second largest ethno-racial group in the U.S. after white Americans. The term African American generally denotes descendants of Africans enslaved in the United States. Most African Americans are descendants of enslaved people within the boundaries of the present United States, while some black immigrants or their children may also come to identify as African American. The majority of first generation immigrants do not. They ain't trying to be called that, preferring to identify with their nation of origin. Why are we not identifying with our nation of origin? Because astonishment and blindness has hit us. The curse is on us. That's why we nigga and stuff like that, and black and African American. We all these. And then when you tell people we Israelite, like I was saying earlier, you got some super Hebrew brothers that just setting fire to the thing, and people scared to come listen to us because they think we gonna curse them out and be with all that extra stuff like how they be. Ain't that so? We be trying to see how we need to go at these people to let them know that we Israel, but we not these dudes who be standing on the corner cursing people out. See how this curse is on us, even when you're trying to do this thing the right way? This is something else. And it's like, most African Americans are of West African and coastal Central African ancestry, with varying amounts of Western European and Native American ancestry. Because see, that's another byword that people think that we are pretty much in New Orleans. They second lines and all that stuff. You know what the people, black people in New Orleans, the Israelites in New Orleans call themselves? Indians. Indians. They got the costume with the second line and jumping all around. They Indian, they Native American. But it says, look, most African Americans are West African and coastal Central African ancestry with varying amounts of Western European and Native American ancestry. And let's go to the next slide, because what I want to deal with is this Native American ancestry, to show you that, yes, we had some European Native Americans, and they really wasn't native, but for the most part, what was here first as a result of escaping from slavery and manumission and things of that sort, you had what was called as Black Indians, which was actually Israel. Because the Native Americans, the red man who they have, what they known of, what people identify and are really familiar with today, they came some thousands of years ago across the Bering Straits, from Asia, and mixed with Europeans that was here. And this is what created the Native Americans, the red-skinned ones. But the black ones was already here, but they really wasn't Black Indians or Native Americans. This was Israel. They had escaped certain slave trades and was trying to flee from European ancestors or colonists. It says Black Indians. Black Indians are Native American people defined as Native American due to being affiliated with Native American communities. Ain't that so? Black Indians are Native American people defined as Native American due to being affiliated with Native American. Not due to their nationality or DNA, but just being affiliated. That make you a Native American with Native American communities. And being culturally Native American who also have significant African American heritage. Why is significant? Because they slaves. This is Israel.
Right.
Historically, certain Native American tribes have had close relations with African Americans. Ain't that somehow they got this written up? Now these Native Americans are what they would call African American. This is all Israel. Especially in regions where slavery was prevalent or where free people of color have historically resided. Let's go to the next slide. And let's get into some of the names of some of these Native Americans. And you have the Muskogee, also known as the Creek Indians. These were black, what you would call Black Indians, what they're using the term, but this was Israel. Muskogee, or in other words, Creek Indians. Matter of fact, it's allegedly said that when Nat Turner, who led the biggest slave revolt by one man, not the biggest ever though, but they tell us the biggest ever, but the biggest slave revolt by one man, Nat Turner, when he fled, he aligned with the Creek Indians. Why? Because this was Israel. It's like the Creek Indians, the Muskogee Creek Indians. The Muskogee, also known as Muskogee Creek, or just Creek, or a group of related indigenous people of the southeastern woodlands. So this is Florida and everything like that, Georgia, all these places in the United States. Their historical homelands are in what now comprises southern Tennessee, much of Alabama, western Georgia, and parts of northern Florida. Most of the Muskogee people were forcibly removed to Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, by the federal government in the 1830s during the Trail of Tears. A small group of the Muskogee Creek Confederacy remained in Alabama, and their descendants formed the federally recognized Porch Band of Creek Indians. Do you know, if you look in Oklahoma and you look at the Muskogee and Creek Indians, you know you got people that look just like us, and we're gonna show some pictures in a minute, look just like us, that's fighting for their rights in Oklahoma. They fighting for their rights, can't get any of the manumission reparation that the red-skinned Native Americans are getting. To this day, if you black and an Indian, you can't, they is fighting to this day trying to get something, can't get it. Why? Because it's the curse that's on us. And they ain't really Indians, they are Israel. But they fighting, coming to the table like, look, we original Creek Indians. Look, we original Israelites. That's why they not giving it to you. It's like a small group of the Muskogee Creek Confederacy remained in Alabama, and then the census formed the federally recognized Porch Band of Creek Indians. Another Muskogee group moved into Florida between roughly 1767 and 1821, trying to evade European encroachment and intermarry with local tribes to form the Seminoles. You know, Florida State football and basketball.
Right.
Florida State? They known as the Florida State Seminoles. Do you know that the Seminoles, the original Seminoles, that really I'm gonna read that too, but I put black Seminoles because people are not aware. But really it's crazy to put black Seminoles because the Seminoles were black. They were Israel. But the Creek, the Muskogee people, mixed with the Seminoles, some other Israelites, and this is how you had what was called the Seminoles. But in actuality, what the Muskogee Creeks, what the Muskogee or the Creek Indians did, they mixed with some group of people called the Maroons, and we're gonna read about them in a second. They mixed it with the Maroons, and the Creeks together for what was called the Seminoles, and they were black. You had people like John Horse, one of their chiefs. It's like through ethnogenesis, the Seminole emerged with a separate identity from the rest of the Muskogee Creek Confederacy. The great majority of Seminole were forcibly relocated to Indian Territory in the late 1830s. Forcibly relocated. Look, they will violently take away your land, your ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face and shall not be restored to thee. This is what we're reading right here. It's like in the late 1830s where the descendants later formed federally recognized tribes. Some of the Seminole with the Muskogee moved south into the Everglades, resisting removal. These two tribes gained federal recognition in the 20th century and remained in Florida. Now, what they talking about, these here, they call them Muskogee. Really, these were the Maroons. And Seminole, these were Maroons, but these were Seminole Israel that was in Florida. And you got what's called that they do not teach in school. But if you look up and you go look at the Seminole Wars, the 3 Seminole Wars, Seminole Wars, you had the first one in about 1812 to 1817, and you had the second one, which was the longest that lasted. Do you know this was a war between these Seminole Indians, they called, which was Israel and the U.S. government? And these guys knew guerrilla tactics, war tactics, and stuff like that, and defeated the U.S. government 3 separate times on their own U.S. soil. They don't teach that in school. Seminole Indians, which was black, which was Israel, defeated the U.S. government in Florida, in those Everglades, in those swamps, because they didn't know the terrain or anything, the U.S. government, and killed thousands. And the way the government got them was they did a fake, like, look, we want to surrender and make a deal with you. So when they got them to put their weapons down and stuff like that, you know what they did? Killed them and enslaved the rest. Didn't even act like they was going to surrender because they couldn't beat them, and got the leaders and the chiefs and killed them. Ain't that something? You waving the white flag, but soon we get together, you're going to open fire. That is some low down, that's some low down stuff. But look up the Seminole Wars, the 3 Seminole Wars that happened in Florida. This is good history. These 2 tribes gained federal recognition in the 20th century and remained in Florida. Let's go to the next slide. Let's look at some pictures of Creek Indians in America. This picture right here, this guy, Chief Silas Jefferson of the Creek tribe in America. Do this guy look like an Indian? Or do he look like one of our uncles or something like that? Israel? Don't he look like one of us?
Yep.
This is a slave right here. This is one of our descendants, one of our people. Not descendants, one of our people, forefathers or whatnot. But he was called Chief Silas Jefferson of the Creek tribe in America. And if you look to the right here, you got a little baby and a woman that's supposed to be of the Muskogee freedmen in Oklahoma Territory in the 1900s. This is Israel. This is Israel. Let's go to the next slide. And this one here is interesting because this one right here, she was also known as a Creek Indian. But wait till you hear this story. Sarah Rector, also known as Sarah Rector Campbell and Sarah Campbell Crawford, March 30, 1902 to July 22nd, 1967, was an American oil magnate since childhood. So she had an inheritance of oil, a magnate. Under the Treaty of 1866, due to birthright as a black grandchild of Creek Indians born before the American Civil War, she inherited land. It was surprisingly discovered all rich and produced over $300, equivalent to $9,800 in 2023 per day. So she was known as the richest colored girl in the world. And you see that do you know what show used to come on TV that's based off of this? The Beverly Hillbillies. A man named Jed, he went out, looking for some food. He was poor, whatnot. He went out looking for some food and shot, in the ground. And up came some crude. All that is black gold, Texas tea. That's where they come from. Based off this little girl right here who was an Israelite. Ain't that so? The Beverly Hills Billy is based off of this right here. Let's go to the next slide. The Maroons. We just got to talk about those Maroons with the Seminole Wars. Now, the Maroons are descendants of Africans in the Americas, and they say Americas, but first they was being sent to Suriname in South America, which is the top northern part of South America. Now, a lot of what I didn't put in here for history, but do you know the Catholic Church? Because what they was trying to do with these Maroons and the Seminoles and the Muskogee, they was trying to get them to convert to Catholicism. Why they was trying to get them to convert to Catholicism? Because Henry the Navigator, now they teach that in schools, Henry the Navigator, and I think it was like the third or fourth Pope or whoever, I can't think of his name, and the Queen of England at the time funded, the passage that come from Africa to start getting this slavery in South America, along with the Pope, with the Catholic Church. And Henry the Navigator was tied in with this. But they first started shipping them to Suriname, which is in the northern part of South America, in Portuguese, because who was Henry the Navigator? He was a Portuguese, sailor king or whatever. This is who he was, in Portuguese. Where's Portuguese? South America. That's what Brazil, that's what they speak. They don't speak Spanish, they speak Portuguese. So Maroons are descendants of Africans in the Americas and inlands of the Indian Ocean, who escaped from slavery through flight or manumission and formed their own settlements. They like, we getting out of this, we tired of this. Set up their own stuff. That's how they would leave from South America, end up in Central America, eventually in North America. What happened years later? Here come the Pilgrims. That found them and tried to enslave them again. But they called them Native American when when you track it, this was Israel being shipped into slavery that broke free. They often mixed with indigenous peoples, eventually evolving into separate Creole cultures such as the Garifuna and the Muskogos. You know who the Garifuna, where they mostly located, with basically all Garifuna people? Belize. You know what Belize is? In between Central and South America. Garifuna people. And what do they have? They got Garifuna music. And see, Garifuna, this is just another name for Israel. This is a byword. Maroons byword, Garifuna byword, Muskogees, Creek, all these are byword, all these, and I'm just showing the people because they regarded as somebody else, and you got people talking about, look, we the Native Americans. Look, we Israel. And you got this thing with FBA, Foundation of Black Americans, which we would be according to their standards, and the people in the islands that are against each other. And we are all Israel. Ain't that so? They often mix with indigenous people, eventually evolving into separate Creole cultures such as the Garifuna and the Muskogos. The American Spanish word Cimarron is also often given as the source of the English word maroon, used to describe the runaway slave communities in Florida. That's what maroon stands for. The Spanish word is Cimarron, but it describes what it means is runaway slave. And also pharaoh, like a hog, like a runaway hog or boar, wild boar or something like that. Runaway slave communities in Florida. Now, you mean to tell me it was some Native Americans that they had in this Bible that was going to run away and be cursed? No, we reading about Israel. In the great dismal swamp of the border of Virginia and North Carolina, on colonial islands of the Caribbean and in other parts of the New World. Linguist Lyle Campbell says the Spanish word Cimarron means wild, unruly, or runaway slave. But you had another group of people called the Geechee people. You had the Geechee people in North Carolina, Georgia, all the Carolinas, but they also go by Gula Geechee. You know who that's based off of? This brother who was originally in Florida. He was shipped from, Africa, slave, came from the islands, I think it was Jamaica or St. Thomas, and they shipped him to Florida, and his slave, then he was sold, and he ended up in South Carolina, I think Charleston, South Carolina, and he ended up hooking up with Denmark Vesey. Denmark Vesey, that's a prominent name in Black history, Denmark Vesey, but the thing with the man Gula Jack, his name was Gula Jack. What was Gula Jack known for? Hoodoo. He was a conjurer. They shipped this brother out of here, out of slavery, to this land, and he dealing with black magic. Because hoodoo and voodoo is different. Hoodoo is more tied in with the land and nature. Right. Like they might call themselves Black Wolf. On the game Mortal Kombat, they got Night Wolf. they identify with like have a feather, like you had one of the rappers used to have a feather in his head and all that. See, that's practicing hoodoo. Right. That's hoodoo with elements of the earth, creating black magic or witchcraft, which is evil. And then you have what's called voodoo, which is known as a religion, and this is also witchcraft. This is dealing with Ouija boards and tarot cards and all that kind of stuff. But this brother practiced hoodoo. And this was what thwarted slave rebellion that they was trying to carry out. Him and Denmark Vesey, they didn't pull it off because they ended up finding out what was going on and they kind of thwarted their plans. But the Geechee people, the Gula Geechee people in the Carolinas and Georgia and stuff like that, this is also Israel. Known by Byword, by another name. But let's go to the next page on the Maroons. Because you don't hear nothing about the Maroons, and these are important factors right here because, like I say, the Maroons and the Creek Indians coming together, which was all Israel, formed what's known as the Seminoles. And when we see Florida State, we see a red man Indian. But the Seminoles were always black. They were black, this was Israel. You wasn't a Seminole. Seminole stood for a black Indian. So this is Maroons continue. It says the institution of slavery was threatened when large groups of Africans escaped to geographically secluded regions to form runaway slave communities, often referred to as Maroon communities. Such communities were established throughout the Americas, South America, Central America, and North America, particularly in the Caribbean and Brazil. Now, we know it was in Central America they had this woman called Tatuba. She was an Israelite, and she was a slave. She was practicing voodoo and hoodoo and stuff like that. And she started teaching some Gentile white women this stuff. They would end up making their way into being sent to, their owner would ship them somewhere into Massachusetts. Salem, Massachusetts, you know what came from that? The Salem witch trials, taught by an Israelite woman. The Salem witch trials. It's like such communities were established throughout the Americas, particularly in the Caribbean and Brazil. They developed their own culture, government, trade, and military defense against their European and American oppressors. So they was with some war. You got some people that say this was most of the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin, they was on some war stuff too. But that's not, we can't substantiate that. In short, they attempted to live as free people beyond the sight and control of the planters of colonial officials. Major efforts were made by European militaries to track down and destroy Maroon communities. That's what you get with the Seminole Wars, with the 3 Seminole Wars in the 1800s in Florida. But those attempts were normally rebuffed by the Maroons. They were skilled at fighting. For example, the British, they tried it first. The British were unable to defeat the Maroons in Jamaica and therefore established a treaty with them. The Black Curbs of St. Vincent and Maroons in Suriname did the same. Remember, I'll tell you, Suriname, that's in South America. That's at the very top by Grenada. That's in the very top of South America. Maroon communities also existed in Africa from those who fled slave raiders or escaped from coffles along interior slave routes. Do you know who some of these slave raiders was that they were using? Certain people like the Choctaw Indians and the Chippewas and stuff like that. Some of these red-skinned Native Americans. Scalping, you know what the purpose of scalping was? Because they was putting hits and rewarding these Native Americans for catching or killing runaway slaves. Scalping, that was proof that, look, I got a piece of this scalp, see this is black skin. This is what this stuff was. They was also slave raiders or escape coffers along interior slave routes. Maroons also could be found in certain areas of North America, including the Great Dismal Swamp, straddling North Carolina and Virginia, and the Basse des Fluves region of Louisiana. That brings us to New Orleans. Let's turn to the next page. The Basse des Fluves region of Louisiana. North American Maroons were self-liberated slaves who learned to survive in and make adaptations to the southeastern American wetlands in which they took refuge. Where are these? The Everglades, the bayous, down here where we are, including the Great Dismal Swamp spanning parts of North Carolina and Virginia and the Louisiana Central Wetlands, covering nearly 30,000 acres adjacent to Lake Borgne in New Orleans. You know what Lake Borgne, all that's considered now? The Seventh Ward, the St. Bernard Parish. That's why I say these people who call themselves Indians and all this stuff in New Orleans, look, this is maroon. They don't know the history. And this all goes back to a byword, a curse. This is Israel. But Lake Borgne, this is Seventh Ward, this is St. Bernard Parish. The Africans and African Americans who came to dwell in these places between 1718, after the founding of the French colony of Louisiana, and 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, chose not to travel north to seek freedom. Instead, they created free communal societies in an environment that challenged them with swampy ground, extreme heat, insects, snakes, and alligators. Where is that? Louisiana. Louisiana, Florida has the biggest population of alligators in the U.S., in the world. Over some couple million in Louisiana, some couple million in Florida. Yet at the same time, nourished and protected them. These landscapes were places of danger, beauty, and secrets, two worlds at once, neither solid nor submerged, not completely safe from slaveholders and slave catchers, but not easily navigable by them. They couldn't really navigate it like that because these brothers were making them pirogues and stuff like that, little rowboats out of the cypress trees and stuff like that. They was building all that and making their way and maintaining the wetland, maintaining the bayous. Not getting rid of the animals and the alligators and all that stuff because they needed that as a defense as well. But that was that. Let's go to the next page, page 17. It says, maroonage is a powerful example of resistance to captivity. Historical accounts have proliferated of maroons in the southeastern United States as well as in Haiti, Jamaica, and South America. Less often discussed is the knowledge of wetland ecology and management of swampland resources that these people carried with them, sometimes directly from Africa, and developed via on-site practice. They on-site just know how to maintain the land and all where they at, learning the land. In the territory that would become the state of Louisiana, the central wetlands were a mix of bald cypress and water tupelo swamp, fresh marsh, and bottomland hardwood forest. It has been estimated that prior to the arrival of the French, with Napoleon and his people, such habitats covered half the area in question. Ain't that something? Soon Napoleon get here, look, it's a marsh, it's eroding. Ain't that something? It has been estimated that prior to the arrival of the French, such habitats covered half the area in question. Today, it is less than a third. Nevertheless, the ways in which maroons cultivated and cared for their unstable environment remain a vital cultural legacy that landscape architecture as a discipline should not overlook. More specifically, the maroons example is helping to inspire activists in New Orleans and elsewhere to consider how swamps and wetlands can be stewarded to support communities who are in danger now by climate crisis and environmental injustice. Ain't that something? They looking at how they kept up everything to try to do the same because they done messed it up. Let's go to the last slide. Let's go to the last slide, and we go get with the Black Seminoles. So we've been talking about them. The Black Seminoles are Afro Seminoles, are an ethnic group of mixed Native American and African origin associated with the Seminole people in Florida and Oklahoma. They are mostly blood descendants of the Seminole people, free Africans, and escaped former slaves who allied with Seminole groups in Spanish Florida. Many have Seminole lineage, but due to the stigma of having mixed origin, they have all been categorized as slaves or free men in the past. Why? Because this is Israel.
Yep.
This is the byword. This is the curse. That's what this is. Let's go back to the scriptures now. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles chapter 7. We're going to pick it up at verse 15. But I never, out of all my years, college, I took African American studies in college. They ain't teach me nothing like that. They taught me a little bit more than high school, middle. They ain't teach me anything like this. 2 Chronicles chapter 7, and we're going to pick it up at verse 15. 2 Chronicles 7, and we'll pick it up at verse 15. And when you get there, like I say, this whole Bible is black history. The knowledge, like the Bible, the Lord let us know, look, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We come up with this knowledge, which is history, combining it with this wisdom, binding with these scriptures, and getting some understanding. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 and verse 15. And when you get there, read.
Now my eyes shall be open, and my ears attent unto the prayer that is made in its place. For now have I chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. So
look, this is why we face Jerusalem, the east, because where our location is, we face east. Why? Because the Lord said his eyes will always be there. Right. This is why we stand in faith. We don't just fast in any. Look, location and where we are. Look, what way is east? We be in a different building. It's facing it. Look, what way is east? Look, we facing that way. Right. Now the Lord hear our prayers, but we being obedient. Because he know that his eyes shall be open and his ears attended to the prayer that is made in this place. For now have I chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and mine eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. So we aim them that way. Because that's what we aim for spiritually. We trying to get back there. Right. We back in the wilderness, basically. We got to get gathered from the four corners of the earth where we are and get back to the promised land spiritually this time. Some people going to get there physically. I want to be there spiritually, part of that first resurrection. That was verse 16, verse 17 to continue.
And as for thee, if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded thee, and shalt observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of thy kingdom, according as I have covenanted with David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man to be ruler in Israel.
So look, all this, getting the blessing and not the curse, is all predicated on obeying the Lord, doing what the Lord say. So you have to stay in this Bible. There's a lot of things you might be doing you didn't know was wrong. And you have to get in this thing and get with somebody who own this thing, been in a while, and can show you what thus saith the Lord. Then will I establish the throne of my kingdom according as I have covenanted with David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man to be a ruler in Israel. Verse 19.
But if ye turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up by the roots out of my land which I have given them. And this house, which I have sanctified for my name, will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among all nations.
Ain't that so? But if you turn away and forsake my statutes, in other words, ain't listen to what the Lord said, talking about the law been done away with, and my commandment which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, Valentine's Day, Easter, Mardi Gras, Christmas, all these things, then will I pluck them up by the roots out of my land, which I have given them. And this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight. Because Israel was in the land at the time that he was letting them know this. And they ended up being scattered. And what we do, the reason why we got scattered, ain't it some descendants of our forefathers that got scattered by doing this? Here we descendants doing the same thing today. You think we're going to get back in the land as a whole? Absolutely not. And we'll make it to be a proverb and a byword among all nations. Verse 21.
And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to everyone that passeth by, so that he shall say, why hath the Lord done thus unto this land, and unto this house? and it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath he brought all this evil upon them.
It's like, why, have the Lord done this, thus unto this land and unto this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their father, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath he brought all this evil upon them. Known by black Seminoles, known by Maroon, known by nigger, known by African American, Negro American, colored, Negro, all kind of names. Common denominator. All these names, a byword and a proverb. Let's go to Psalms 44, and we're going to pick it up at verse 8. Psalms 44, and we're going to pick it up at verse 8. Because when we did this Black History thing, what we did last year, we came from a different angle. But there's so much stuff in this Bible. We don't have to really do the same. We try to show certain things, in other lessons or whatnot, but it's so much to talk about in these scriptures that we just trying to expand and show these other elements that might not have been talked about before. Psalms 44 and verse 8. Psalms 44 and verse 8. And when you get there, read.
In God we boast all the day long, and praise thy name forever. Salah. But thou hast cast off and put us unto shame. And goest not forth with our enemies.
But thou hast cast off and put us to shame, and goest not forth with our armies. Verse 10.
Thou makest us to turn back from the enemy, and they which hate us spoil for themselves.
Ain't that something? Thou makest us to turn back from the enemy, and they which hate us spoil for themselves. Verse 11.
Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among the heathen.
Ain't that something? Talking about Israel. Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among all heathen. Verse 12.
Thou sellest thy people for naught, and dost not increase thy wealth by their price. Thou makest us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and a derision to them that are round about us.
Thou makest us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and a derision to them that are round about us. Verse 14.
Thou makest us a byword among the heathen, a shaking of the head among the people.
Thou makest us a byword among the heathen. A heathen is anybody that ain't Israel. Esau, he called himself a Jew, he really a heathen. Now he a Semitic heathen, but a heathen or a stranger is anybody that ain't Israel. That's how this Bible lines this thing up. Thou makest us a byword among the heathen, and we looked at them, maroon, African American, black, nigger, all this stuff. A shaking of the head among the people. People look at us and shake their head. I'll be looking at me, they like, look, black folks talking about we gonna come to them like they need them, like ask yourself, what we need y'all for? That's what they online saying right now on TV. As they being deported, like they don't need us. Why? And it's nothing against them, because it's a lot of that are good people. A lot of good people. But you have some that over some real racial stuff, and I'm just saying these things because why? They shaking their head at us. They like, look, we don't even help our own people. How y'all gonna help us? That's what one of them was saying, and that is true. Can't deny that. That's true. We fight against each other. We kill each other. Verse 15 and continue.
My confusion is continually before me, and the shame of my face hath covered me. For the voice of him that reproacheth and blasphemeth by reason of the enemy and avenger.
For the voice of him that reproacheth and blasphemeth by reason of the enemy and avenger. Because the Lord is the one swinging his sword. He's the one that's doing this, got us in this situation. All you got to do is read Judges chapter 2 and the beginning of Judges chapter 3 and see how he put us under the captivity of the Hamites because we wouldn't listen to the Lord. And it wasn't until we started doing right and cried unto the Lord that he sent somebody, a judge, to deliver us. It's the same way today. The judge this time is the Lord in his words. Let's go to Job chapter 17. We're going to pick it up at verse 1. Job 17, we're going to pick it up at verse 1. And we're coming close to the end now. Job 17, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Job 17 and verse 1. And when you get there, read.
My breath is corrupt, my days are extinct, the graves are ready for me.
Uh-huh.
Are there not mockers with me? And doth not my eye continue in their provocation?
He's like, are there not markers with me? And doth not mine eye continue in their provocation? Verse 3.
Lay down now, put me in a surety with thee. Who is he that will strike hands with me?
Uh-huh.
For thou hast hid their heart from understanding. Therefore shalt thou not exalt them.
And we talking about the heathen of the strangers in this sense right here, what Job talking about. Let's go to verse 6 and continue.
He hath made me also a byword of the people, and aforetime I was as a tavern.
Ain't that something? Job identified this. He knew this even back in his time. Talking about the Lord. He have made me also a byword of the people. And aforetime I was as a tavern. A tavern is somebody they just like you, just a punching bag or whatnot. They just beating on you like a drum, just taking advantage, just persecuting you, afflicting you because of this curse. Let's go to Job chapter 30 and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Job 30 and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Job 30 and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Job 30 and verse 1. And when we get there, read.
But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have sit with the dogs of my flock.
Ain't that so? But now they that are younger than I have me in derision. Youngsters ain't listening to nobody these days. The ones that don't have any disobedient, wasn't ready, they ain't listening to nobody. They got the old folks in derision. I ain't listening to anybody. And this is the old folks is where the knowledge should be. Where the knowledge is that they can get something valuable from somebody who have already lived them years and seen some things versus, they don't want to hear that. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Verse 2.
Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, and whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes, and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, and caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed, under the needles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. And now am I their son, yea, I am their byword.
It's like they were children of fools, yea, children of base men. Talking about some of the heathen and strangers and whatnot. They were viler than the earth. And now am I their son, yea, I am their byword. Verse 10.
They abhor me, they flee far from me, and spare not to spit in my face.
This is what he was talking about. He become a tabret. Because that's also as a tabret what they're doing, spit in his face. This is the same thing they did with Jesus. It ain't something the same thing Jesus went through, his name being Israel. We are we Israelites, we go through the same and been through the same thing. Do you know, I was looking at something, I can't think of the woman's name. You know what somebody, they be playing when they do it. But when you taking a picture or something like that, and somebody do this behind your head, do you know that started in Jim Crow? That was a racial thing because it was a black woman, I can't think of her name, and a whole bunch of Gentiles that was doing it to reproach her. That ain't just some fun stuff. It's a history behind it. I have to find that name. I was looking for it. I can't find the name. I thought I had it saved, but that's where that comes from. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 18. We're going to pick it up at verse 15. Jeremiah 18 and verse 15. Because you always see people do that. You taking a picture and they do this behind your head. But see, at first what they was doing is like that. But sometimes people just do it like that. Black woman was trying to make it through the crowd doing civil rights time, Jim Crow and stuff like that. And a bunch of Gentiles, somebody with a photographer taking a picture, they gonna do that behind them. I'm telling you, it's a lot of history with this thing. Jeremiah chapter 18, we're gonna pick it up at verse 15. Jeremiah 18 and verse 15. And look, what we dealing with is truth and history. Recorded history. Our history. And look, even though we highlighting these things, we are not racist. Look, we know we have to be a light to the Gentiles. That's what we try to do. We just highlighting the atrocities and the curse that was placed on the group of people being ourselves. We just point these things out. Because the first thing, because see, it's so bad, the curse is so strong now to where the stigma is you can't talk about this stuff because that's race. Look, that was a long time ago.
Right.
That was a long time ago. You know, look, that was long, but look, the resources ain't been reallocated to where they supposed to be from a long time ago. You get way up a head start, and you talking about, look, that ain't got nothing to do with that. But look, you're a benefactor of the benefits from that stuff. Israel is the salt of the earth. Israel built pretty much this whole world for the most part. We did a lesson a couple of years ago when we showed all these different inventions that Israel did. We might have to do that lesson again since we're dealing with a lot of history and stuff during this time. To show or add some more things in there, from the toilet to the light to the cell phone. All these things. Lewis Latimer with the cell phone and with the light. Jeremiah 18, and we're going to pick it up at verse 15. And when you get there, read.
Because my people have forgotten me, they have burned incense to vanity, and they have caused them to stumble in their ways, from the ancient paths to walk in paths, and a way not cast up.
Because my people have forgotten me, they have burned incense to vanity, and they have caused them to stumble in their ways. False prophets, NAACP, all these people, leading us astray, away from the Lord. It ain't a civil rights movement, it's an obedience movement. Obedience movement doing what thus saith the Lord. The stumbling in their ways from the ancient paths. What are the ancient paths? The way that the forefathers did it right with Moses, leading them, establishing the church in the wilderness according to the commandments and the laws and statutes of the Lord. Those are the ancient paths. It ain't like that anymore. It's only a remnant trying to push this thing forward. To walk in paths in a way not cast up. Verse 16.
To make their land desolate, and a perpetual hissing. Everyone that passes thereby shall be astonished, and wag his head.
Ain't that what they do? Look, we wag our head at each other. I'm talking about Israel. Like, matter of fact, me and Brother Ken, we was talking about that. Me and Brother Sean talked about it too. They got this rapper. She called herself Sexy Red. Nah, if that ain't a byword, I don't know what is. But anyway, she called herself Sexy Red. I'm talking about some degenerate behavior. The worst. She used AI to put up a picture of Martin Luther King as he in the club, look at her in her face like he want to get with her. This man dead and gone. Right. And the sister, his daughter, Bernice King, like, look, that is degenerate. No, she say that is deplorable and disrespectful. My father who fought for, he is not here to speak for himself because he was assassinated for fighting for your civil rights and for poverty amongst black folks. I'm talking about she hit her with a cold one. I was like, yeah, she came back strong on that one. And then she took that picture down, and do you know she got another one up? What Martin Luther King doing the march, and she like in some, revealing clothes with stacks of money in front of the crowd. See, this is the kind of stuff that Israel become a derision to the older people. This man dead and gone. And that's foolishness. This is the kind of stuff, and I'm not going to even talk about her lipstick line. The lipstick line is named after STIs and STDs. Ain't that something? Where they get these people from? This is evil spirit. This is multiple evil spirits. This is a counselor to anything trying to do anything good. This is somebody that need the Lord bad. But who got her doing this? Esau. Let's go to, that was verse 16, verse 17. But like I was saying, look, even we see stuff, because I seen that, I shook my head. I'm like, this don't make no sense. I shook my head. So I know the other people, the stranger, the heathen, shaking their head. Because that's just degenerate as it can be. Verse 17, they continue.
I will scatter them as with an east wind before the enemy. I will show them the back and not the face, and the day of their calamity.
Let's go to Lamentations chapter 2, and we're going to pick it up right after Jeremiah. Lamentations chapter 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 15. Lamentations 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 15. But the stuff you see these days, it don't cease to amaze you. That's how you know we in the last days. Lamentations 2 and verse 15. And when you get there, read.
All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, Is this the city that man called the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth?
Making a mockery of us. Verse 16.
All thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, We have swallowed her up. Certainly this is the day that we looked for. We have found. We have seen it. The Lord hath done that which he had devised. He hath fulfilled his word that he had commanded in the days of old. He hath thrown down and have not pitied, and he hath caused thine enemy to rejoice over thee. He hath set up the horn of thine adversaries.
Look, the Lord hath done that which he had devised. The Lord said this is what he was going to do if you turn from his commandments. He hath fulfilled his word that he had commanded in the days of old. He hath thrown down and have not pitied. He hath caused thine enemy to rejoice over thee. He hath set up the horn of thine adversaries. Who is the horn? That's the power. That's the people, the rulers that's over, the oppressors that's doing what they doing, oppressing Israel. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 2. Turn back a chapter, one book. Let's go to Jeremiah 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14. We just got a couple more. Jeremiah 2, we're going to pick it up at verse 14. Jeremiah 2 and 14. And when you get there, read.
Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled?
You got to ask the Lord. Look, Lord had to speak through Jeremiah. Ask that question. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? What is he meant to be a slave? Why is he spoiled? Skip down to verse 17 and continue.
Hast thou not procured this unto thyself, and that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy God, when he led thee by the way?
Hast thou not procured this unto thyself? We secured and did bag this up out to our own. So we did it to